You can only save your own life, but you don't have to do it alone. You can only take your next breath. You are the only one who can own your authority and organize to what is true for you. And then you navigate the confusion and the rules out there. And how we were all raised was to, oh no, you have to organize to the rules and they get to define you.
Welcome to this episode of Owning Her Health with your host, Dr. Lisa Holland, PT. Join Lisa as she starts the conversation on what it really takes to become a healthy, wealthy, and whole CEO of your life. Listen in to real talk by real lady leaders in all walks of life as they open up on personal health stories, wealth, career, and feminine abundant living. Learn how to grow by owning your body, expanding your mind, and aligning your soul with the purpose only you can pursue in this world. Happiness begins with owning her health right now.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Owning Her Health. I am your host, Dr. Lisa. So I came across Cathy Holoway in a group that is odd for me to come across her there because she's also a PT, DPT, doctor of physical therapy, who was into an integrative model of physical therapy, the developmental manual, that sort of stuff. And I somehow got through and didn't necessarily find her while I was doing clinical practice. But Cathy Holoway has been a leading physical therapist and educator for a number of years. And she's worked worldwide with her process of neurovascular integration. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But basically, the body as a whole, I know the people that listen to this understand it. We're kind of a whole eclectic system. And some of us are working at unwinding the tight kind of contractions that happen that sort of interrupt. I say it's a kind of a perpetual energetic static constipation we're sort of working towards. That's how I felt my practice was. And I think Cathy can agree. And some of us use our hands, some of us use dance, some of us use music, some of us use, other things. So that's kind of the realm, and I'll leave it over to her. But in her integrative manual therapy practice, she's been able to give lectures and speak to some of these things. But the real thing that I really enjoyed in speaking to her, to the fact that it's really hard sometimes being a visionary and being ahead of the game and almost being it's like you're doing your work and you're doing your job or your vocation, but there's this other calling to your work, and you're speaking to that conversation. And I just saw a big kinship in our conversation. She was nice enough to sort of speak to me, because it's nice to have other people to speak to that are like that in the world, because it is a rarity. But I saw a kinship in that there's this idea, especially I see for women right now, which you guys hear me speak a lot to, where there's this medicine woman or this modern medicine woman that's maybe not even necessarily in the realm of of medicine in the traditional sense, but is definitely bringing on a social healing through her work and through that connection and things like that. So Cathy, thank you so much for being here. I don't know if anything I said sort of resonates with you, but that's what I got out of our conversation. How are you today? And when you kind of let me know how you are today, why don't you just give us a little synopsis from your point of view, your story as a pioneer and as a therapist and really a thought leader in your industry and in what you're doing, how you got from, hey, I think I'm going to be a physical therapist, to, hey, I think I'm going to be, speaking about really unwinding and helping people sort of see their potential through trauma and injury.
Well, good morning, Lisa. Thanks for having me here. Yes, it's kind of an interesting story. And where I start a lot of times is with the hashtag, once you're born dead, there's nothing else to be afraid of. So that started me. I was born with profound forceps damage that really impacted my whole life immediately. That was unrecognized, in the late 50s. Who knew? Right?
It's amazing that you made it.
Yes,
right?
It was really close. It was really close. But what that gift brought me was this really strong sense of like, oh, wait, okay, here's my purpose. Yeah, I'll take this ride. We're off to a rough start, but I'm going to take this ride, and here's my purpose. And so my life of creativity started. That was the brilliance of, I lost some of the gnarly linear left hemisphere stuff, but wow, my creativity was just whew, in full bloom. And actually, truthfully, regarding how I got into PT, I was forced to go to PT school.
Mm,
And, back in those early 70s, girls went to college to find a husband. And so I was told that PT was better than nursing because you didn't have to clean bedpans. So she thought. And,
right.
go. So I had to kind of pivot my creative arts world. I spoke 5 languages. In my mind, I was going to go to Georgetown, pick up Chinese, and hit the road as a translator, right? And yet, once I knew the only way out was through PT school. So okay, but once I landed in my first hospital job, I don't know, there was some natural connection that happened,
Mm,
between a curiosity of what was really going on in the wiring and the physical piece of it, but also a connection of wait, let's slide in and connect and feel here together. And then we'll figure out what this means, how to get your shoulder moving again, things like that. Um, and that's kind of what drove my career for the past 40 plus years was this sense of connecting into what makes sense and holding your edges, as we say now, to make a safe space. And
mm,
this is what wakes up, oh, your self-organization in here. So yes, I've been running my own business 25 years. Yes, I've been teaching my own seminars and webinars since then. And pre-COVID, yes, I was the 1.3 million miler flyer
mhm.
that brought it all out to the world. When COVID hit, wow. And I live here. What?
Right, right.
What is this? How do I own my authority right here at home base? And it was these connections. It was Zoom. It was online work. It was, oh, wow, wait a minute. No, I can hold your edges from here and help you land in you right here, right here. And you're in your home space and it's more authentic and more real. So, the truth of it is, the blurb is, I am your embodied transformation guide, and I help you land in the truth of you so you can bring your source and self to service. And whether it's complex medical stuff, because yeah, I'm the brain whisperer, okay, we
Mhm,
figure it out,
mhm.
or life trauma issues, all right, we help you flourish from your embodied organization. And you need a container for your transformation. I got your edges. That's what I do.
Right. I love that, Kathy, because I hear so many things that are really where we need to be just in well-being, which
Hmm.
is, I mean, it's like the same thing, like the macro and the micro,
Hmm.
like keeping safe spaces and and the self-organization. And I
Hmm.
think that's where we're similar, is where I kind of went through PT school. And I think I was right at that edge where I was always jealous of the people who went to PT school in like the 80s and the late 70s because it was so like neurologically based. And I just think we're sensory beings, right? So like
Hmm.
everything comes from that. And I really understood that the body was the manifestation of whatever the mind was at that time, right? Like the developmental interactions and what you thought of yourself, and that all made sense to me. Yet when I was getting trained in the mid 90s, I went to PT school 94 to 96. And then if I had not gone to if I had not been in a school that had my major be sports medicine athletic training, I don't think I would have gotten as much out of PT because it was starting to switch over to that structural kind of like almost like, glorified personal trainer, strength training, all this
Yes.
outside
Yes.
thing, and forgetting all of these things. I was like, I want to learn more about proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. I want to learn more about what Bobath was thinking. I want to learn more about
Right.
it, because I understood, wait a minute. Pediatrics is not different than geriatrics, is not different than sports
Right.
medicine. Even when I opened up the Belly Guru, which was my name to fame, and I focused on the pregnancy year, was just because I was like so enamored by the fact that, like, this is it. This is setting up. Maternal health is
Yep.
social public
Yes.
health,
Yes.
all of that. But I was one of few. So what do you think? I guess it was just like that creative mind, or being able to sort of see the world, and like you said, I think people don't really understand. Anybody who sees any of the video clips here, you're not this old woman from 200 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, the world really was where you went to school and it was like, go get a job until you can find a husband. This
Uh-huh.
wasn't that long ago.
No,
So,
it
like
wasn't.
what, like, tell me a little bit about just being the woman in that world, sort of navigating this.
The woman in the world navigating this had quite a dynamic journey.
I bet.
In terms of, you know, owning the power and the truth of my creativity and navigating from there at a time when, in, 1979,
Right.
1980,
Right.
like, what, and yet there were models. The first hospital I worked at had a woman physiatrist running the department. And, in 1979,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
pretty,
wait
like,
a
you don't
minute,
realize it, but that's so accomplished, right? Like,
right? Like, how did that happen? So I mean, it was the dance of my life, that I knew what was true in me. And because of the tumultuous family container I was in, I knew from back then there are times where you don't bring your truth forward. You just
hmm
kind of, all
hmm
right, this isn't going to be heard or received. And so I'm just going to persist in my way, and that doesn't lessen what I know at all. And so, from hospital work, I went to a different organization where of a guy who was working with an osteopath who opened a therapy center, and back in the old days of Physician Dome.
hmm
Okay.
hmm hmm
And I ran the place, opened 7 offices for these guys. And this is before fax machines, this is before computers.
Right.
But there was a freedom and that creativity again. How do we meet our patients, okay? And, provide whatever stories go on at the time,
hmm
of, oh, this, that, and the other. It's, oh, they just invented this cool electric stimulation thing.
Right.
Wonder what that does,
Right. Where does that fit in the picture, and how can we
Yeah.
sort of experiment? I get it. And I just love it, because I'm like, oh man, this is really, like, I wish I had seen you, because one of the things that I think kept me back, didn't really keep me back, but it just, a slower and not as impactful um journey, was that I didn't see the you, and I didn't see the business you. Like, I didn't hear this story, right? Like, if I
Right.
even was able to, like, it was all about the continuing ed and making me this clinician to go fix
Right.
somebody. And I
Right.
didn't really get to, even when I would, see, and I always gravitated towards these women that were these kind of outliers.
Yeah.
My first teacher was Elizabeth Noble in women's health, who was
Mhm.
like, oh, the cuckoo wacky lady from, whatever. And yet everything, now she has this Elizabeth Noble Award from the American Physical Therapy Association. Like, it's like, you got to, like, work your way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, some guy would, like, adapt something by calling it his name, and he'd have, like, a sticker stamped on it, and everybody would be studying it in all the physical therapy schools. And that always frustrated me. I'm like, where are my women mentors? But we were, like, just in there doing the work, I think. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like, we
Yes.
we were not kind of taking the leadership, but we were doing the work.
Yes, absolutely. We were doing the work. And we were also recognizing when things weren't working so well. And
Mm,
we were also curious about, oh, wait, Who's this guy down the road, John Barnes, doing what? Myofascial release? Huh,
Right.
wonder what that's about, you know?
Right.
And so there was a recognition and a curiosity. And how can we reframe, you know, when you recognize something ain't right, you know, how do we reframe the situation to find that open door of possibility, to
Right.
find the way to be present, to support the transformation?
Yeah, and I think that's so much what women really are. The container of is bringing that, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
we can go through the linear because, like, even what you're saying, I think there was a lot of, um, this, I guess, the challenging competitive mind, right? Where it was like, oh, what's Barnes doing? I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna take whatever and I'm gonna make something better and I'm gonna like be the best. Or it was let me go in and be like, what works with the whole big system that I already see. Let's not waste our time recreating the wheel. Let's
Right.
let's like let's make the wheel work better. you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's so much of what women naturally bring because
Mm-hmm.
that's like when you've got a gaggle of kids, that's what would naturally work, right? Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
what we got. We're not exchanging any. Like, how can we make this work? And that
Yeah.
mindset, I find it so odd that it's took, well, I don't find it odd. We don't know the reasons why behind it, but we go into the workforce, right? Like you're going in the 70s and 80s, you're bringing this,
Yeah.
but it's being opposed because there's such this idea of like, it's this way and this is the way that works. And we're going into more industrialization and the idea of what productivity is, and we're losing the person.
Yeah.
So how detrimental, like it's no surprise where we're at in healthcare right now because it's like, right? Like it's like
Yes.
you're destabilizing the very systems of health and care.
Right. Right. Right.
So I see your work as sort of bringing that. Um, I know it's been hard because you just have you're so far ahead of the game, and now we have
Yeah.
transformational leadership and transparency and all these wonderful things. But 2023. I mean, it's been a while. What do you wish you could, from your mindset now, kind of whisper into the ear of that woman, that goddess wisdom of knowingness 10 years ago or even 15 years ago? What do you wish you could tell her then to help her have gotten here a little bit easier?
Okay. What I would tell her is this. Um, Yay, that you've honored your creative source self so far, and you have changed the world of therapy interaction and so much more that you've brought so far. But I was still doing it, organizing to the white coat rules out there. All right.
Mm.
And I was outsourcing my authority.
Oh,
And even as I was running my own business and every other week on a plane flying somewhere to one of my remote clinic offices or flying somewhere to teach, um, that was outsourcing my authority. And when I would come home, it would just be like, like I'm exhausted, hang on.
right.
And 3 years ago, when COVID hit and all my trips got canceled and my outsourced life ended, I had to learn how to slide in and own my authority right in here,
I
and
love that.
be the magic I was here to bring, but to really truly live it right here in my home base. And paradoxically enough, as the work progressed on Zoom, the treatment programs progressed on Zoom, that translated into, oh, you're at your home base in your comfy chair on your bed, and we're doing this treatment. Same thing. The patients I was working with got to own their authority right there on their home turf and inside.
Yeah, I
So,
love that idea of like kind of the idea of like outsourcing your authority. I see that. I feel like I
yeah.
really feel like women have enough power. We're all
Mhm.
talking about empowerment. I feel like that's what I was brought up on this women's empowerment. I feel like we've got enough power. We don't know how to manage it.
Right. Because it comes down, you can only save your own life, but you don't have to do it alone. You can only take your next breath. You are the only one who can own your authority and organize to what is true for you. And then you navigate the confusion and the rules out there. And how we were all raised was to, oh no, you have to organize to the rules and they get to define you.
Good
Okay?
point.
The rules of white coat medicine get to define you as a practitioner. And like,
I know, even to the level of like what color scrubs you wear in the hospital, right? Like it was like all
right.
this, like it was like basically the whole entire like chaos of, right? Like that was basically racism.
Yeah.
I'm in the
Well,
purple scrubs, you get the blue scrubs, you get the long coat, I get the white, the short coat. I mean, like we were basically in the system, right? Like,
oh my gosh, Lizette, I got to tell you, you're bringing this up for me. And, in 1979, when I started working, the PT uniform was a white nurser top, but navy blue pants
mm,
and white nurser shoes.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was like,
Like don't
okay,
forget where you came from.
yeah, yeah, okay, like you're kind of the authority, but you're still not the authority. And I remember in the early 80s, my brother's friend, his dad had just invented New Balance sneakers. So all of a sudden, I have a pair of sky
Right.
blue New Balance sneakers. And one day I decided I'm wearing these instead of my nurser shoes. They're more comfortable. And the ruckus it
I
caused
bet.
because I changed my freaking shoes, right? Right?
Right.
So this is this odd pivot that we've all been in that's still burbling out there of okay, here's the white coat rules that define you. Now get in there and do the work and we'll take all the credit for it.
Right. And it doesn't even help the people who are taking the credit because they're all crashing finally now. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
finally coming down. The towers are coming down, but it does let this level playing field. And to what I was saying before, the people who were planting the seeds that
Mm-hmm.
were sort of nursing and
Mm-hmm.
nurturing the
Mm-hmm.
people who may come up beyond them,
Mm-hmm.
their work was to do that. And
Yeah.
again, I think women don't own that enough because it's not out in the well, it basically because we're not necessarily valued for that, and then therefore we don't value ourselves and we don't see it. I mean, I left a really wonderful brand on the table because I didn't even see how revolutionary I was being
Yeah.
until I like got later on and I was switching my brand into my own personal brand and I was hearing where things were going. I was like, wait a minute, I was doing this back in 2005. Like
Mm-hmm.
this came natural to me, but because you don't have those kind of containers, like you said,
Right.
it
Right.
was looked at as like, I have to doubt myself. I'm not like, there's only so far you can go when you're not getting that proper feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
like, almost the work you do is to give people back that proper feedback in themselves.
Right.
But we also do need to not do this alone. You do need to
Right.
be in social structures
Right.
that are going to support that. So,
Yes.
of course, it translates to out. I always say I always taught yoga off the mat more than on the mat because like once you get
Yes.
it, you realize this is so much more than what we're doing right here,
Uh-huh. Yes.
right?
Okay. It's not about the nail. It's not about your paraffin bath. It's not about your fascia. Okay. It's about
Right,
connecting to you.
right.
And
And
it's a
yet you need to know about those things as entities, but you need to know beyond them.
yes.
You need
You
to be
need
thinking bigger.
you need to know them to understand what the patient has been organizing to and what your colleagues have been organizing to.
To know the
Okay.
system.
Right. You need to know the story system and how it's been manipulating you, and now how you, owning what you know and your authority, are going to navigate that.
Yes. So whoever's listening to this, I want you to hear that again. Rewind it, go back 15 seconds, rewind it on the podcast because this is so true. This is
Yeah.
these little wisdoms that I'm bringing you. I call them womb wisdoms because they come from within. I mean, we're the
Hmm.
womb man for the reason
Yes.
we just because in living this in professing it and Cathy is also a mother and is seeing the world through different eyes of the next generation. You just have this kind of like long view and having come through a womb and almost losing the life and choosing to not
Uh huh.
take that route. I mean,
Uh
all of that is so empowering. And yet, I don't think you can really share that from a place of being on the outside. And I think this is where women have the advantage. But we
Yes.
need to actually be telling these stories because it's so this is corporate DEI, ladies and gentlemen listening to
Yes.
this. This is
Hmm.
DEI. This
Yeah.
is you parenting better. This is you
Yes.
healing your body. This is all of those things for those of you who can hear the truth between the biases,
Hmm. Hmm.
between the conditioning, right?
Yes.
So you have to
Yep.
do that personal work. Tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing now.
Okay, right now, I still, I have a little bit of a table practice right here in my home office. I do my work, my neurovascular integration,
Mm-hmm,
okay?
mm-hmm,
Hands-on work, but it is autonomics to autonomics. Let's let your nervous system feel the safety of this perceptual field so then it can focus in and start sorting through what's been confused inside.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
healing work. And I work with some really complex patients, and I also work with patients who get it, that it's about their story process and how to bring the truth of themselves forward. And this work we also continue right here on Zoom because it is powerful and effective and important. And so, yes, it's this power process embodied coaching thing. Yep, let's do a little slide in, feel that truth in you. And now, where's that take you? Where do we go with
Mm-hmm.
that? So
Mm-hmm.
there's the table work, there's this work right here. I run a community membership group. And occasionally, when the creative muse kicks me awake, I run online classes. So it's this, and that. We've got quite a different community has grown in the past 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would imagine it sounds like it's really more of instead of treat me, fix me, it's like the self-seeking,
yeah, yeah.
self-seeking now. How can I empower, enable, evolve, and
Right. And the curious thing is that right here, right here, right here, I see you, I hear you, you are received. And how can you be seen and heard and held for the truth of you in here, for your under the why the wiring is the wisdom of your truth. Let's meet there.
right. And you're not going to necessarily see the tangible logic in that, which is so important for anybody listening to this. If you're dealing with, it really is about, whatever, to thy own self be true. But that's an impossible thing to do if you've never been given the opportunity to express
Right,
or know yourself. You
right,
don't you don't know
right,
it when you feel it, when you
right,
see it.
right. You don't know
Right.
what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Right. And
So,
get
yes,
stuck.
absolutely. And this is what this work does. I've got your edges, I am the container for your transformation. Let's start with a belly breath and let's learn to trust that belly breath and until your jaw softens and you start drooling. And it all starts from there. And
Right.
that's
And we
where,
want so much freedom, and we're all talking so much
mhm,
independence, so much freedom, this ultra independence, so much freedom that we don't understand. And that just becomes this sort of, right, uh, entropic kind of like chaos, right?
mhm,
We are a
yeah,
system that it's like that. I always say the hero's journey has got to elevate now to more of like that infinity. We're
mhm,
going in, we're coming out. And if you've studied anything like, the yogic system and the chakras and the Kundalini, it's like no wonder it was all like a figure eights, consecutive figure eights into this,
mhm.
because you need to expand and contract, expand and contract. This is just all physics, guys. This is just all the stuff like, just like expand your mind outside of the smallness and you can see it all coming together. So let me flip that question I had for you, Cathy, in terms of going backwards in the work that you're doing, because I know that you joined that entrepreneur group with me.
Mhm.
There had to be a reason behind that. If in a decade you're successful with where you want to go or your vision, um, what is that woman telling you? What's been accomplished?
What's been accomplished is she tells me, yes, you have left your voice on the world. You have opened that door and you have shown, shown women, shown people, okay, that you can slide in and be in the true source of you and bring that magic forward. You know, this dynamic process of, oh, it's about the hands-on. Whoa, no, that unlocked like the true source of self. And okay, how do we navigate with that? How do we celebrate that? So, yep, I've left my note on the world of slide on and feel your truth and bring the magic. We're here. That's what we said yes for. Let's bring it. Let's be here.
Right. Let's not complete it and having when people are like, I don't want to have any regrets, it's like, well, then you better start living.
Right now.
Because that's the whole right. It's just right now.
Yeah.
It's not the past. It's not the future.
Right.
You can like I've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza say, like, fall in love with your future more than you're in love with your past. I can relate to that because so much of the pain work that we're working with, even with chronic pain, like so much of the stuff we're holding in our body, like I said in the beginning,
Yep.
it's just what it is, the belief systems, the holding on to sensations.
Mhm.
Because the reality is when I've cut my finger or when I've gotten in that crash or whatever happened at that time
Mhm.
happened then, but it's
Right.
not happening now. And I'd
Right.
better get to that reorganization
Yes.
or else I'm trapped
Yes.
in it. And that's the story of everything. Nothing
Mhm.
we've spoken about today matters what the outside color of your skin is, other than the fact that that's what your experience is bringing it in.
Right.
Nobody cares if you've got a penis or a vagina with what we've talked about. Nobody
Right.
cares what age you are. So this is the solution. This is
Yes.
the ability for everyone to be able to see the world as it is, which is an
Their way.
unknown,
Right.
which is, needing to understand how to adapt. So I just love kind of where you're going with that. Where can we find you if anything that we've heard is like, wow, she's really interesting, or like, who is she, what's going on?
Right. Well, the easiest way to find me is on my website, and the easy way that is nvinstitute.com, for neurovascularinstitute.com, NV Institute. And there you'll find, wow, you'll find the links to my TV show, Neurotransformation Journey. You'll find my interview with Star Jones. You'll find, the story of the work that I developed and how to connect with me. All
I
right,
love it.
so
And like,
that,
as she's like, you'll see my TV show, you'll see my interview. Like, this is what I mean. It's like when there's genuine people that are doing this thing in the world, the real medicine people, they're so focused on sort of like, what is it I need? But you're probably not going to hear them. So I thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so glad that I came across you. I don't think that's by accident,
no.
at all. And it feels like such a blessing because, like, I mean, I'm just enjoying this ride. I'm
Uh-huh.
glad kind of to know you. I'm glad I can recognize you of one of true OG in physical therapy, but also healthcare and this whole mind,
Yes.
body keeps the score,
Yes.
because you should be recognized for that, quite frankly. And there's probably a lot of layers to that. But anybody
Mhm.
who's listening to this, who you have an idea, you have kind of a vision, you're understanding what we're saying, you kind of feel like, okay, my career was to prep me for this calling.
Yes.
Please listen to this conversation and understand, we understand,
Yes.
we got you.
Yes.
Like it's not
Yes.
going to be easy. Please get into the right containers. Please connect with people like me and Cathy, because it's better that you're connecting with us earlier. We
Yes.
wish we would have had social media so I could see these other people, because you're definitely not, if you're the one in your town, you're the one in your probably state. Like, we get it. Like, um, but keep going out there and try to get to that place where, yeah, you're organizing your methodology. And it's not to be the best or known as by your peers as the best, because they probably don't see it. That's the
Right.
thing I want to say. They
Right.
probably, and they won't maybe for 20 years,
Right. Right.
right?
Well, you show up, number one, your truth is bigger than your trauma. All right.
Love it.
Let's meet there. That's where we go. Okay.
Yep.
That's where we land to learn how we bring it forward.
And it's going to work out for you. That's the other thing I want to say. Like, it's going to work out for you. Like you're, I love to feature people who can make people who are complaining about their victimization and inability to do stuff just shut up. Because like here I am, right? Like here's Cathy. Like let me tell you something. You're scared of using technology. Yeah, she didn't grow up with it either. Okay, like you're scared. You're in one kind of path as a clinician or a health pro, or yeah, she was too up until 3 years ago. By the way, like it's like there's no excuse. Like have the kids. Yeah, she
Right.
had kids too. Had to leave the relationship to go with her calling. Yeah, she did it too. Like I did it too. Like
Yep.
I'm not dismissing the
Right.
difficulty, but I'm saying let's fix it. Like
Yep.
let's just adjust
Yep.
and get it done.
Yep.
So thank you,
Yes.
Cathy, so
Thank
much for
you.
being here. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Anything else you want to alert us to? This is a happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way, that we're recording this, but this probably won't go out till maybe April or so like that. Is there anything in spring of 2023 that they should be listening to if they're listening to this when it gets published?
Well, I will tell you, when you're cruising around my NVI site, go take a look for the Power Process Group Coaching creation. Okay, we have a new container coming forward. And so, sure, let's
speak it into being.
Yep.
Go see what's going on there. Thank you so much.
There is.
And for anybody else who needs any information, it'll all be on the show notes, the links and everything for your ease. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next time on Owning Her Health.
Thank you for listening into this episode of Owning Her Health. To learn more about her personal and professional development service, visit her online at drlisahollandpt.com.